All of this is academic. You were made as well as we could make you.
But not to last.
A light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And you have burned so very, very brightly, Roy.
I first met Rutger Hauer over the telephone. We were discussing mutual appearances at a Blade Runner-themed convention in Washington. It was surreal to me, because as the founder of BladeZone.com, the online Blade Runner fan club, to be speaking with such an iconic actor as Rutger Hauer, it was just really weird. But Rutger has a gentle way about him, and he made me feel very welcome over the phone, and we had a terrific first conversation, though it was punctuated hilariously by occasional burps on his end. It was hard not to snicker each time he did it, and I fought the impulse, but it made me really understand something about Rutger as a person, as an actor, is that he's not only a very well-spoken man, but he's also one who doesn't really care about pretense. Rutger just was. Now, Rutger's been busy as an actor since the 70s. I'd learned later in life that I'd actually seen him in a couple of films from the 70s, though at the time, of course, I had no idea. The first was Turkish Delight, directed by Paul Verhoeven, and the second was The Wilby Conspiracy with Michael Caine and Sidney Poitier. Now, the first time, though, that I had seen Rutger and took notice of him in the film was in a film called Nighthawks with Sylvester Stallone and Billy D. Williams. He played the international terrorist and murderer Wolfgar, which is a perfect name for his character, as Rutger himself looked like a wolf perched on the peak of a mountain looking down on the rest of the world. Nighthawks remains, to this day, one of my favorite films from the 80s. The next film, of course, that I saw him made me a fan of his for life, Blade Runner. It was the very first R-rated film that I ever went to see without my father, because I just turned 18. My first viewing left me very frustrated, though. I went with a bunch of my friends, and all of us kind of walked out like, what did we just see? Because we were expecting Han Solo and Indiana Jones, and instead we got this strange, dark, violent film. But that week, it was the last week of school, I got a copy of the novel, which I still have to this day, and I read the book. And the book gave me a much better insight into the themes and the story of Blade Runner. So I went back to see the movie a second time the following weekend. And right then and there, Blade Runner became the single most influential film of my life. It changed how I looked at cinema completely. And Rutger played a huge part in this. He was the villain in the story, but a villain you empathized with. And empathy, as you know, is a major theme within the story of Blade Runner. So that wasn't accidental. But his character, Roy Batty, wouldn't have worked, at least I believe, with any other actor. There was something in Rutger's performance that really brought home the elusive dimension of the character. And not to forget, the most iconic line in the film was rewritten by Rutger himself. It was the last day of shooting of the film, everyone was tired, and the scene wasn't working. So Rutger took the script back into his trailer, and he tweaked it. He walked back out into that water-drenched set, and they shot the final scene. And even the crew was moved by the lines that he delivered.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die.
Now, I've seen Blade Runner in all its iterations well over 200 times in my life. I don't even know if my fellow Blade Runner fan friends Gerry Willoughby and Paul Salmon can say that. Maybe they can, but I highly doubt it. Now, Rutger played a myriad of roles that I have watched after Blade Runner. I mean, I was hungry to see more of this amazing actor. He would play the lone hero in films like Wanted Dead or Alive, and he would reunite with his friend and Blade Runner co-star Brian James in the film A Breed Apart. He would later play a loving husband caught in a web of espionage with his not-who-they-appear-to-be friends in the film The Osterman Weekend, where he shared some screen time with Hollywood legend Burt Lancaster. And of course, I'd be remiss in my duties as a cinephile if I failed to mention his portrayal of the psychotic killer John Ryder in one of the most memorable horror films from the 80s, The Hitcher. I think one of my personal favorites was actually a made-for-TV miniseries that he did called Inside the Third Reich, where he played Albert Speer, the architect for Hitler. He reunited again with his Turkish delight director Paul Verhoeven to make the film Flesh and Blood. He also, in that film, reunited with his Blade Runner pal Brian James again, as well as the Hitcher co-star Jennifer Jason Leigh. I think one of the best films he did after Blade Runner, though, was Lady Hawk with Michelle Pfeiffer and Matthew Broderick. He later starred in a sci-fi film, I think it was around 1989, with Joan Chen, and it was penned and directed by Blade Runner scribe David Webb Peoples, and the film was called Blood of Heroes. I was really surprised when he did Blind Fury, because Rutger had always been sort of this dramatic guy. I'd never really seen him go for comedy. He'd been a little cheeky, but never did comedy. And this film had a lot of humor in it. And Rutger was perfect in it. And of course, his fight with Sho Kosugi is one of the best. Sometimes it feels like the 80s were his best years, but one has to admit, if they look at his Internet Movie Database page, it was clear he stayed very busy. But some of my favorite roles still did happen in the 90s, despite the fact 80s being his best. One of my favorites was Split Second. Another was the HBO movie Deadlock, also named Wedlock. He did a really cool sci-fi film called Crossworlds, and he was in a low-budget film called Omega Doom that was actually pretty good. He makes it good. But of course, I can't leave out the hilarious first iteration of the character of Buffy in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He was brilliant. After that, Rutger kept working doing busy work, mostly B-movies and bit parts on TV. It wasn't until a movie that came out in 2003 called Confessions of a Dangerous Mind that people took another look at Rutger and remembered what a brilliant actor he really was. He started getting more memorable roles, like on Smallville. He played the vampire in Salem's Lot, the remake of the miniseries from the 80s. He was, of course, in Sin City. And of course, you can't forget the ultra-violent hobo with a shotgun. He was also in The Heineken Kidnapping. He was in Batman Begins. He was in True Blood, Wilfred, The Last Kingdom, Mata Hari, and he starred in the Channel Zero series, Butcher's Block. I watched that and relished it. He was great. He was in the movie The Sisters Brothers, an odd western, but it was not bad. It was really pretty good. And he had been a regular on the TV series Porters when he passed away today. He still has projects due to come out. He was filming as the Ghost of Christmas Future in the upcoming miniseries A Christmas Carol, alongside stars Stephen Graham and Guy Pearce. Though it's unknown at this point if he completed his scenes or not. I'm hoping that he did. because I would hate to see his character recast, as this role would be a fitting tribute to such a gregarious and loving guy. Which takes me back to Blade Runner, and my favorite story about Rutger and how gregarious he was. It was when he showed up to meet Ridley Scott for the first time. Ridley had actually cast him as Roy Batty unseen. He had not met him. And Ridley, when Rutger walked in, was absolutely mortified. Rutger showed up wearing some outlandish skin-tight pink trousers with Elton John-esque sunglasses on. Just outlandishly crazy. Now, after the initial shock upon their meeting, Ridley and he warmed towards one another, and it became two peas in a pod during the production of the film. And Rutger relished playing the character of Roy Batty, and I know this for a fact, as he told me himself, because he said Roy Batty really was the best character he ever got to play. And I don't know if he was saying that because of my being with Blade Zone or not, but I believe him, because I know he has talked a lot about that character over the years and has written about it. And I know for a fact in my heart that he loved Blade Runner, being in it and watching it as much as any of us Blade Runner fans did. I haven't talked to him in almost a year. The last time I spoke to him was in regards to a video that he had made for Blade Zone, and I wished I'd stayed more in contact with him. I know that occasionally I would shoot him an email with a reminder of something or let him know if something was going on, but we didn't really connect much over the last year, and it makes me feel awful because now he's gone and I'll never be able to talk to him again. I love Rutger Hauer as an actor and as a person. Great contributor to the culture of cinema. He's going to be missed.